This is the printer that I am using, the Anycubic Photon Mono 4. This is a nice printer for beginners, and you can buy them on sale for under $200. I'm also using standard resin in gray from Anycubic. I'm using the Anycubic Wash and Cure 3 station to keep things simple. I fill up the wash bucket with 91% isopropyl alcohol, also known as IPA, that I purchased from Walmart. The slicer software that I use is Anycubic Photon Workshop. This is where I import the STLs that I purchase and slice them into files so that my printer can print them. And here are my slicer settings. I've set my exposure time to 3 seconds, and the exposure time for my bottom 5 layers is 35 seconds. Otherwise, I use all the defaults. Some important things that I've learned are always to angle or rotate, in my slicer software, the pieces so that their main horizontal surfaces are between 30 and 45 degrees. I never print a flat object horizontal because the resin printers don't do a great job of printing large flat areas. The suction pressure from the resin printing process, when the build plate moves down into the resin and then back up again, it causes suction. And it can actually lift the fresh new layer of resin that was just printed and detach it from the model. This could cause your model to warp or detach. The best way to deal with this pressure is to rotate your objects. So here's a Nargile, and when I import it, it comes out in this default orientation. But if you click rotate, and on the Y, they will give you these buttons because this is a known best practice for resin printing. You want to rotate it at 45 degrees, and then you'll have a much better chance of printing it. You also never want to print, so you don't want to print this way, straight up and down, and you don't want to print horizontal either. It probably would work on a small piece like this, but on a larger piece, the piece can actually tear away from the supports due to the pressure. But when you print like this, it evens out the pressure better as the plate goes up and down, and the supports will hold. And the other important thing is you want on the top, this will be your best surface. So you want to make sure that the part that you're going to see or the part that is in the front is on the top when you print, because see, there's going to be all these little pinheads and you'll have to sand them, and sometimes it's not the easiest to sand them all perfectly. So that's why you always want your top front facing surface on the top during the print. In most cases, these are small pieces, so there's no need to hollow them out, punch holes in them for the resin to escape, etc. I just print them as they are imported. I always arrange the pieces so that their bases overlap slightly, which gives me a much better surface attached to the plate and really helps with not having pieces fall off the build plate. So if you have multiple pieces, so copy, paste, paste. So if I'm printing 3 things, I always overlap the bases. So it makes one solid support base. For safety, I always wear nitrile gloves when handling uncured resin pieces, and I always print in a well-ventilated room or out in my garage. This is where I do my resin printing, out in the garage, where it's well ventilated and the fumes will not bother anyone. And I'm just going to hit print. Print the figure. Go. And it's going to take 2 hours and 15 minutes to print. So my print is finished. I'm going to remove the lid. We can see that it's finished and it looks successful. Everything seems to be attached to the plate. Now I'm going to put it in the wash station. I'll carefully remove the build plate. Press wash, 6 minutes, and you push the button in. That's the start. So then we'll put this back to protect the resin. So it's almost done. There's about 30 seconds left. The container, by the way, is filled with 99% isopropyl alcohol, or IPA, which I just get at Walmart. And you can see it's already turning purple because I've done a couple of things. You also need to wear these blue nitrile gloves anytime you're touching uncured resin, just for safety. Some people are allergic to resin. So it's done. Now I take it out, let the IPA drip off so I can preserve as much as possible. And then I set it to the side on a shop towel, and we're going to let it dry completely. When it's dry, I'll remove it from the base plate. Okay, it's been about 5 minutes. The IPA has dissipated. It looks dry. I'm going to convert this into the cure station now. So you remove the bucket, put the turntable on, press cure. Now, we're going to remove this from the build plate. 2 gloves. When you do it, you want to, don't let it rest on the bracket because you'll change your trueness. You want to have it parallel. And you use a scraper for this, and you use the corner of the scraper and try and get a corner of one of the pieces. Don't worry about scraping the base plate. And I slowly lift everybody up. See? And then I place it on the cure station. Put on the lid. I'm going to do another 6 minutes. So I turn the dial to set the time and push it in to start. Meanwhile, I'll spray, well, first I'll use make sure everybody's off. Spray some IPA just from a regular spray bottle. Clean it up. Then I reinstall the base plate, and I'm ready to start the next print. Again, we'll let the IPA dissipate first before I start.